203.2 million tons, that's a new record. So we are setting records every year, but the amount of grain is declining. Let's take 4-year averages, okay? Let's take 4-year averages. Let's take 2004 to 2008, the last 4 years for which we have data. The net per capita availability of food grain for those last 4 years is 436 grams. 436 grams. Let's take a comparable period of 4 years, 50 years ago, when the country had just been independent for 10 years, barely. 1955 to 1958. What was the 4-year annual average for those 4 years? 442 grams. In other words, your net per capita availability of food grain for 2005-08 is marginally less, which could work out to maybe 3-4 million tons, okay, by the way, in actual terms, in absolute terms, than it was in 1955 to 1958, which is 50 years ago. Something has gone seriously wrong with your food production. You have a massive rise in hunger amongst the most vulnerable sections of your society. Let me tell you, you can look at hunger in calories, or you can look at it in calorific values, or you can look at it in amount of grain. As a journalist, I'm compelled to look at it in ways that are just mind-boggling. Let's not go to deep interior Kalahandi. Let's go to Mumbai. Let's go to Mumbai. Urban periphery Mumbai, last summer. I'm sitting with teachers from a municipal school who are pleading with me to use my influence. They somehow imagine that journalists have some. And it depends on what kind of journalism you're doing, really. They said, sir, please insist, write to the government, tell the government that the midday meal should be double ration on Monday. Now, I was foxed by that. I said, why should it be double ration on Monday? They said, because the child has starved for 3 days at home. The last meal that child ate was Friday at noon. That's hunger, guys. That's hunger. They said, no teacher is willing to teach a class before 1 p.m. on Monday because we can't control the children. They're starving. Their bellies are burning. We can't control those children. So please, sir, see that the Monday midday meal is double ration to calm those tormented bellies. Then I go to Telangana. In the villages of Nalagonda, for the first time in my life, I'm approached by, there is a double jeopardy for me. Not only am I a journalist assumed to have some influence, I'm also Telugu. So I'm approached by a delegation of mothers. Very, very, very honorable, very big honor, but what do they want? That time, you remember last year there was a heat wave in Andhra Pradesh and lots of people died. The government closed the schools several days early. They closed the school 10-15 days early all across the state because people were dying of the heat wave. What happened? The mothers were begging that the schools be reopened and kept open through the summer because the only meal they were able to get that child was the midday meal in the school. I said, listen, the kids will die of heat stroke. They said the kids are dying slowly instead of dying fast. They said, please, if you have any love for us, please go and ask the government to keep the schools open during the summer. Most of the mothers in most of the villages you go, if you put them this idea, they will jump at it. They want it because that's the one meal in the day that child is eating. This was in village after village in Nalagonda and Mehboob Nagar. After that first delegation, I went and asked mother after mother. They said, this is what we pray for, that the schools should be open every day. Then the kid gets something to eat. Hunger, guys, is 70-year-olds showing up on the NREGS sites to break stone and dig because they can no longer afford food. 2 years ago, I did a story. Some of you who are from Andhra Pradesh may have seen it. I don't know.